Hi there, Facebook. It's Kamal here. I'm finally home, as you can see. There we go. So a bit of a one of those days, really. That's what happens when you travel. You're always at the mercy of the circumstances that you're in. So such is life. So I had intended to do this a little bit earlier, but as the days rolled on, I've shifted it. So I didn't post anything to say when I was going to be doing this live. Talking about relabeling reactivity and reactivity specifically, and what are the main causes of reactivity when it comes to the human aspect or in that process or in that experience. So there's several key things which I'm going to be talking through this week, and I wanted to discuss one of them this evening. So I thought, you know what, I will do a live to do so. And the big fact, I'll just wait for, just bear with me before I jump in. I'll just wait for people to join. And if somebody could give me a thumbs up, oh, hang on. Let's do that. Oh, yeah. If somebody could give me a thumbs up to let me know that you can hear me, that would be great. Before I start wittering on. Let's see. Let's have a look who's joining me. I might grab my... Let's have a look. So hopefully you can hear me. Somebody could just give me a thumbs up. That'd be great. Or post a comment, either way, just to let me know that you can hear me before I start talking about one of the major causes or root issues of reactivity that can help or hinder it moving forward. So people sort of joining me. Excellent. Thank you, Rosie. I appreciate it. Nice to see you here. So a huge part of reactivity, or one of the causes of reactivity when it comes to the human aspect, is what I'm going to be discussing this evening. And obviously reactivity and reactive dogs is something that I'm really passionate about. Not intentionally started out that way, but as my career's moved on, it's something that I feel really passionate about is the word as to describe it, because there's so many dogs that are misunderstood when it comes to what is reactive behaviour, and it's a buzzword that we've used probably in the last maybe 10 years, 5 to 10 years, that can be attached to everything from the overzealous greeter to the dog that's absolutely petrified of other dogs or people, and then everything in between. And as a result of that, a lot of dogs are labelled as reactive inappropriately and unfairly, in my opinion. So as part of my daily work, or in working with clients and people that are part of my online community, Relabeling Reactivity, it's about breaking that stigma, changing their perceptions, and helping their dogs move forward from the label of reactivity. Certainly a massive part of any dog behaviour, and certainly this is applicable to behaviour and sport, is the relationship between the handler or the owner and the dog. And what I talk about a lot is the emotional Wi-Fi, excuse me, the connection that you have with your dog. Now, dogs probably more than a lot of other species. I would say probably horses would be the other one, and I'm sure there's other animals that have this, but certainly dogs and horses, domestic animals, have that hardwired programming to want to engage with us, want to connect with us, want to bond with us. And as a result of that desire that's been selected for, that's been exaggerated and has been bred for, and certainly a lot of dogs, we get the ability to really home in on what we're feeling and what we're thinking. And I always say to people, dogs are always reflecting back to us what we are feeling in ourselves. And that's really what this week is going to be talking about. So the first thing that's a massive part of that is your confidence. And it sounds really cliche and simple, but a huge part of what causes dogs to be reactive is the handler's confidence level. And that could be the confidence that they have in the dog, the confidence that they have in themselves to deal with the situation, or having had their confidence knocked because of listening to other people, label their dog, or they've been in a situation where they may have been verbally abused, maybe even physically. There's been a physical altercation. That's something that I know some of my participants have experienced because of their dog's behaviour, or as a result of the dog's behaviour. And as a result of that action, their confidence has been knocked. And it's something that often can take work on the owner's part to remedy and to move forward. So I always say to people, first thing that you need to do when you're talking about confidence is identify what is the narrative that you continually tell yourself. Because again, you've got that self-fulfilling prophecy, that belief loop. You know, what we tell ourselves is what we attract, and what we attract is what keeps happening to us, and then what happens to us perpetuates that stereotype. So first and foremost, ask yourself the question, what is the narrative that you consistently tell yourself? Is it that I'm not good enough to deal with this dog, I don't have the handling skills, I'm worried and anxious about the dog's behavior, the dog might attack something or somebody and be seized and subsequently euthanized. It could be that somebody's told you that your dog is a problem dog and it should be muzzled in public, and so forth and so forth. And all the things that often are said intentionally, unintentionally, flippantly to others that can often chip away at your confidence. When that happens, it's first and foremost important to identify what is the narrative that you are telling yourself. And, you know, there might be a source that you've had that from. It might be one person. It might be a consistency across the board. And to change that is to first understand that what the narrative is, and look to reframe it first to yourself, okay? So when you have that narrative, for example, let's stick with the one where I feel out of control when I'm walking my dog, and that makes me feel anxious, and subsequently, because of my anxiety, the dog picks up on that anxiety and the dog responds out of a place of anxiety, and which makes me more anxious and perpetuates that stereotype, and so forth and so forth, okay? So we're going to look at reframing first and foremost. I feel out of control when walking this dog, okay? So we're going to first own the fact that, ask ourselves the question, is there any truth in this? Why do I feel out of control? Is it that the dog is, do I have anything? Do I have a harness on the dog? Do I have a head collar on the dog? Do I have a 2-point lead on the dog? Do I have sufficient physical control of this dog? That's the first thing. So how can we break this down? Do we have, does the dog have sufficient training? Have I given the dog education of how to function in this environment? Excuse me. Or in this situation, okay? Is the environment that I'm putting the dog in making me vulnerable? Is there anything that I can do to empower myself to change the situation, okay? So once we've identified what the narrative is that we're telling ourselves, we're going to break it down. Now, we also need to reframe that. And we need to reframe that by putting a spin or changing the way that we tell ourselves that sentence. So rather than saying, I feel out of control with this dog, we're going to reframe that to, I am working towards improving my handling to have control, listening, and understanding from this dog. Yeah, so that then puts you in a place of action. You are going to be taking positive steps to remedy the solution. You can apply this principle to whatever the phrase that is that you tell yourself, okay? So first off is owning the fact that we all tell ourselves narratives or sentences, and that can be from a previous experience. It can be from our own stuff, and we all have our stuff. We all have our baggage that we carry into our relationships, be it with 2 or 4-legged beings. And we need to own that, certainly when it comes to reactive dogs, and make that connection that often our anxiety could be affecting the dog's behaviour. And I always say to people, often that will be a reoccurring theme in that person's life. They may have experienced that in other ways, that lack of confidence, that self-doubt, that not believing in themselves. And that often will reflect itself, as I said, as a consistent theme in various ways. It might be in their relationship with other people, it might be in their jobs, it might be if you do sports, in your sports career and so forth. And what I always urge people is when you have a dog that displays reactivity, it's almost like your opportunity to change the narrative that you currently tell yourself. And often what motivates people is not to do it for themselves, but to do it for their dog, which is the beauty of having a dog that has challenges that you and that dog can overcome together. So in Relabeling Reactivity, my online community, or the Relabeling Reactivity Collective, we work extensively, we talk openly about making sure that you have the narrative that you tell yourself, you reframe that. Make sure that you have the people around you that are going to support you, and they're going to assist you, whether what I call the villagers. Okay, so you need your villagers around you. You need people that are going to help you, assist you, lift you up, be a shoulder to cry on if need be, that are going to be supportive when you want them to, that are going to be somebody to rant and vent to. You need that as well when you're working through any behavioural challenge. And also people that are like-minded. That's a really, really important thing. People that are on the same song sheet for you. So putting all those mechanisms in place are going to allow you to have a really comprehensive and complete team to help you work through your challenges. When you have a dog that's reactive or displaying reactive behaviour, it can often impact on your own confidence, and it becomes, again, a belief loop that you go out for a walk, the dog acts in a way that makes you feel vulnerable or out of control. That then creates that anxiety. So the next day you remember what happened the day before, and so forth and so forth. And before you know it, that snowball gathers momentum going downhill, and it's bigger and bigger and bigger. So taking stock of, first and foremost, your own narrative, making sure that you are connected to why and what the whys of the sentence that you tell yourself, and reframing it to yourself. I'm one for putting positive affirmations out, either online or certainly in your ether. Some of the things that I suggest to my community is to get yourself a calendar, put it in a prominent place where you can see it, either on the fridge or in your bedroom, and start putting big ticks on the days that you're getting wins or successes. Before you know it, you're going to have a flurry of those, and that's going to be fed back to you. So you're going to see a visual image every morning of the successes that you've had that week, that month, and so forth and so forth. And every now and again, you might get a little bump in the road, and that's absolutely fine. Always expect that. Sometimes we can assume that progress is always in one straight line, and that is very, very rarely the case. It's often up and down, and there's some bumps, and that's inevitable. So expect those things to happen. Create that influx of positivity, and that creates a little dopamine hit for you, which is going to, again, feed your confidence bucket. I always say to people, when you're dealing with dog training or your own psychological strength, you need to be thinking about having two buckets, and one is which you will input to, and one that is depleted from. And the ideal is obviously the one that's depleted from is minimal, and the one that you're inputting in is constantly investing. You're topping that up constantly. So often what can happen when you have a reactive dog, you have people pass judgment or comments about your dog's behaviour, what you should and shouldn't be doing. Again, expect that to happen from, if you have a regular source, well-meaning family members, your neighbours, the people in your locality that give you that information. Have stock phrases that you can bounce that back to them. So if somebody is there to pass judgment on your training, say, thank you for your feedback. I'm really working on it hard. We've made great progress in the last week. Have things that you can say to repel that response that comment that they give you. So being ready, forewarned is forearmed. You can deflect those comments and therefore protect your confidence at all costs. Certainly, keeping a journal of your training and keeping a journal of your progress is really, 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 really helpful, so that you can note your progress forward. Often, when you're working through any challenge, whether it be a sports problem or a behavioural problem, you can often feel like you're not getting anywhere. Okay, so there's several ways in which you can record keep to help you note your progress. Obviously, video is a huge part of that. Okay, sometimes it's impractical when you're working with a reactive dog, but certainly in your training sense, all the exercises that you're teaching a dog to create more control, you want to video your training. The reason being is that you can give feedback to yourself and make progress. So parallel to that, you also want to think about, as I said, journaling and keeping data about your training and your progress. If you have the luxury of a second person, or you are in a position where you can set your camera up on a tripod, you can watch your own training back later on and make criticisms, feedback, and pick up points that you're making in your training. So, and it's constructive criticism, not just tearing yourself apart. I always say to people when they review their videos, compile 2 lists, and every time what people tend to do is heavily criticize their own handling, training, and so forth. Make sure that for everything that you write down that you think you can improve, you put a positive aspect on that, so you balance it out. It's all about feeding into your confidence. So another thing that you can do, that's just slipping, sorry everyone, is in terms of confidence, is to think about how you phrase things. I'm very mindful of my language. Don't talk about your own dog or yourself in a negative way, because you're literally conditioning your brain to believe that about yourself, okay? So labels are a big thing. I always urge my community to ditch the label of reactivity. Call your dog what it is. My dog is apprehensive, my dog is anxious, my dog is frustrated, my dog is prey-driven. Whatever the case may be, let's call the thing a thing so that we can then be proactive about the solution of moving forward. In terms of your confidence bucket, it's really important that you, as I said earlier, protect that from other people depleting that from you, okay? So be mindful of the people that you allow into that bubble. And if you don't, the thing that I always say to people, if they don't have your number to call you, then they're not worth wasting your energy on, really. And people will always find ways to provide feedback to you when you may or not want it. Take the intention of this. If the intention is meant well, by all means, thank them for the intention, but don't hold on to it. Let it go, okay? So again, using a calendar, great thing. Data, great. Keeping a diary or journal of your training is a great thing. Using video. Now, because of the modern age that we live in, a great thing that you can do is have peers, friends, even if they're across the world, the other side of the pond, collate a Facebook group, get people together, or a WhatsApp group, and you can share videos for feedback, again, to create that energy of uplifting each other. That's really, really important. Again, if you don't have people that necessarily train dogs, then being part of a community like Relabeling Reactivity is going to be a massive, massive, massive help to you when you've got a dog with reactivity challenges. Alternatively, you are in a community of trainers, then find people that you can share information with that can support you in that journey of overcoming your dog's reactive behaviour. It's really, really important that you are aware of your own language, of your own approach to training, the labels, if any, that you attach to your dog's behaviour, so that you can not create that belief system within yourself and be mindful of the things that you put out. I'm very aware of the language that I use when I talk about my dogs, because I know that that's literally conditioning my brain to believe a certain way, a certain train of thought. So be really, really present when you talk about your dog, whatever the behaviour or whatever the sport that you partake in any sense, okay? So I'm just going to see if there's any comments or questions from anybody listening. Let's have a look. So feel free to ask any questions, but a massive part of when you've got a dog with a reactivity challenges and confidence. Your confidence, the dog's confidence. Your dog's confidence obviously is something that we're more aware of, and we can see that our dog is lacking confidence. So we can use distance, we can use reinforcement to build their confidence. We can put them further away from the distraction. We can make sure that they're not under an extensive amount of pressure. We can do all that great dog training, but it's really important that we also invest in our own confidence when it comes to dealing with dogs that have any challenge, and certainly reactivity. If we aren't aware of our own confidence and what we are projecting to our dog, intentionally or otherwise, then there's a high probability that that's going to be picked up by the dog, and subsequently the dog's going to act from a place of anxiety or apprehension or concern. And it's really important that we're aware of our confidence level. So I don't know whether anybody's got questions on things they can do to cultivate confidence. So again, just to recap some of the points, be aware of your language that you use, surround yourself with the right people and the villagers. Record keep, positive affirmations, massive, massive, massive one. A huge thing that, so things that you can do is get post-it notes, put phrases that empower you. I'm committed to improving my dog training. I'm invested in my dog's behavior. Today, I will be better than I was yesterday. Things like that, you can put on a post-it note and put them in prominent places in your home. On the bathroom mirror, and the visor of your car, on your steering wheel, so that every time you go into those situations or those places, you're getting that reminder. And put them in bright colours so that you're getting that injection of positivity, so that you're constantly feeding into your own confidence bucket. It's really, really important that you invest in your own confidence, because that's going to ultimately affect your dog. Often what you'll find is that you can dog train so much stuff and you can make massive headway, but the final piece of the puzzle is really owning the fact that we need to be investing in ourselves. Self-care is self-love. I've said that a number of times on podcasts, on Instagram, on YouTube, etc. We've got to be looking after ourselves in order to help our dogs. If we don't look after ourselves and our own confidence and our own well-being, that's going to reflect in our dog's behavior, and it's going to prevent us ultimately achieving the goal that we want. Okay, anybody got any questions? Nope. Have a look. So in terms of confidence, when I work also with sports competitors as well, and it's really, really critical that we really work on their belief system, what they think of themselves, because what they think of themselves will be projected externally, and that will be what they receive. I'm a massive believer in that. So how can you cultivate confidence when you've had it knocked, or how can you rebuild that? First is know that none of us are perfect, okay? We are all likely to make mistakes, and we are always endeavouring to do the best that we can with the information that we have in the circumstances that we are in. And, that the Maya Angelou phrase, when you know better, you do better. And, I've certainly made mistakes in the past, or what I like to qualify as learning experiences. I've learnt from them. And because I've grown as a result of those teachings. So, for me, knowing that every experience I have is projecting me to where I need to be is a huge part of not allowing those things to get in my head. And often what you find is people will beat themselves up about a misstep. Yeah. So every single trainer, no matter who you are, will make a poor judgment on their dog's behaviour, will miss time, will poorly reinforce, will, do the wrong thing, say the wrong thing. That's inevitable. You are a human being and you are doing the best that you can. Obviously, you want to minimise those errors, because that's about the dog having great information. But beating yourself up constantly about what you didn't do isn't focusing on what you did do, all right? Hannah asked, what is the best way to build confidence in a defensive dog? So if the dog is defensive, there's a chance that something negative has happened to it in the past. We want to be thinking about protecting the dog's confidence, obviously, by minimising the rehearsal of that, as one. We want to do some proactive socialisation. That would be in the form of parallel walking with really nice, calm dogs. Possibly doing some counter conditioning with dogs at a distance, desensitizing them to other dogs in the distance as well. To also, work on teaching the dog that the sight of another dog means something good's going to happen to them. And big thing for defensive dogs is really getting them around dogs with good social skills, so they can learn to trust dogs again. If they've had something untoward happen to them, they need to have that built up. So that's something that I use a lot with my dogs. So I shared on YouTube and Facebook about a long-term foster that I had, a dog called Tizer, and he was a dog that was absolutely defensively reactive. He'd been attacked and various things had happened to him, and he acted or reacted out of a place of fear because he was getting in first. And my dogs were a huge catalyst of building his confidence back up, because they have been raised in the way to understand other dog communication, so they gave the other dog space. They allowed him time, and in the end, he was brilliant with my dogs. And that was, again, it was just about building up over time. A huge thing is time, definitely, patience, perseverance, and certainly using reinforcement to start that process off. Okay. Oh, bless you, Patricia. You saved my relationship with my dog. The course was amazing. Thank you very much, Patricia. It's a pleasure working with your super girl. Okay. So, Yukiko asks, any advice, dogs' confidence towards other dogs? So, this is about Hammer. So that really is about, again, exposing him to other dogs that are confident and that have good social skills. Setting realistic expectations, that's the other thing. I think sometimes we can expect too much of our dogs, that they have to love everything and love everybody, but really what we want is indifference and neutrality. But the big thing, certainly for you, Yukiko, is to work on your own confidence and to create that bubble of people that are going to support you, so you don't let them get in your head and other people's comments and feedback undermine your own confidence, because that will be a crucial element. If you are going out into a situation with a level of anxiety in anticipation of something untoward happening, that's going to transmit down to the dog's lead. They're going to pick up on your physical change, your body language, your voice tone, your demeanor, and so forth and so forth. And that's going to be massive part of moving that forward. So it's really important that you work on your own confidence, because that will massively help the dog's confidence. Oh, wow, from Malawi. Okay. Anybody got any other questions about confidence? Through my floor right now. Thank you. My own confidence in my ability with my lab is through the floor right now. How do I feel for you? I think that's such a common thing. When you've had your confidence knocked, it's that belief that I can't do this. That whether that's come from other people or whether you've done that to yourself. First thing is to be kind to yourself. We are all allowed to fall. Yeah, it's about getting up. That's the really important thing, okay? So that's the first thing to say. Second thing is to find the source of the information, and that could be me or anybody else that you trust that has an expertise in this field that can help you remedy that confidence and build it back up. That might mean taking a breather and doing some work on self to understand what is the narrative that you tell yourself. Often you'll find that people that have had their confidence knocked, they may have had other experiences of that in the past, in other situations. It might have been in their youth, it might have been in a job, it might have been in a relationship, and the dog is merely the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. So the first thing is to know that is to work on that, okay, that lack of confidence in yourself. Think about your language, think about how you phrase things, think about what you tell yourself. And start to work on those positive affirmations, start to work on your own, building your confidence up. Also, what can also help confidence is being truthful. So that requires a little bit of self-reflection. Can I improve my timing? Can I improve my mechanical skills? Can I develop awareness of the dog's body language? Because that's going to ultimately empower you. And that isn't to say, it's not focusing on, oh, why didn't I pick up on, well, you know what? What's happened yesterday's happened. There's nothing I can do about it. What I can do is understand how to read my dog. Understand to make sure that I've got him him or her on a lead or a collar, or whatever gives me control. It's taking him to environments where I've got a whole 360 vision around me, and so forth and so forth. Because sometimes when we know better, we do better. And not knowing is absolutely fine. But if we want to build our confidence up, we've got to be honest and go, could I have made decisions that are more constructive to where I want to be? All right? So, anybody else got any questions or comments about confidence? So, spoiler alert, I am actually in the midst of starting a blog, not a blog, let me start again, a podcast talking extensively about this sort of subject matter and everything to do with dog training and behaviour. I did it in COVID, so if you go onto Spotify, you'll find I did a series of, and YouTube, I did a series called Lifting All Ships, which was about, initially it started off just to give people that had businesses, dog training business, ideas of how to get to survive the pandemic. And actually, it ultimately grew into something very different to my original intention. And it actually was about kindness. It was about hearing people's stories of how they were living their life at that particular moment. And certainly from dog trainers, some of amazing people in the industry shared their experiences with dealing with various things. So if you check that out, and my intention for my forthcoming blogs is to follow on that theme. So there's going to be hopefully some really interesting conversations on those, talking about how our confidence level can affect dogs' behaviour, how the link between mental health and us looking after our own mental health and our dog's behaviour. That's something I've got planned. Lots of things about mental strength and competing. I've got planned for that, and I've got some really exciting people I'm looking forward to interviewing. So that's all in the making. So hopefully that will be out in the next couple of months. Fingers crossed. But yeah, so I don't know whether anybody else has any questions on confidence to do with reactivity. Feel free to ask away. Let's have a look. Make sure. Sometimes Facebook can be a little bit of a delay. Let's just make sure I haven't missed any. Okay, I think I've answered all the questions. So hopefully this has been interesting to listen to, talking about confidence, practical things that you can do to build your confidence up if it is depleted or lacking. What I'd say to everybody is be kind to yourselves in when you are working for a behavioural challenge or just in general. We're all doing the best we can with the information we have in the circumstances that we're in. If it was our dogs, we would be compassionate and kind to them. So make sure that you're compassionate and kind to yourself. All right, all, I'm going to love you and leave you. Thank you very much for listening. Hopefully it's been helpful. Feel free to, tell people about this. I'm going to be doing several of these throughout the week. And as I said, the doors to Relabeling Reactivity is currently open as VIP, where you can be part of that community of people exactly as I've described, that are supportive, like-minded, have me as your coach, my team that are incredible. So if it's something that you think that will be helpful for you, by all means, join in. All right, guys, I love you and leave you. Have a good evening wherever you are in the world. Thank you all for joining me and speak to you later.